DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is the real costs of the stuff that you want. The real costs. Not the costs you can read on the screen, but the real costs. And before we get into this, I remind you all of two things. First of all, my daily motivation text message, and all of my text messages, the number is down below in the description. You want to be getting those messages when we start sending those out again. All you got to do is text me at the number below. When we start sending it again, you'll be getting those straight to your phone. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. You want to have me as your direct personal coach to help you with your mindset, strategy, systems, accountability, taking all the stuff you hear me talk about here and helping you implement this specifically and personally and directly into your life and into your business. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is down below in the description of this audio or video. So this topic, this is going to be a two-part series, the real cost of the stuff that you want. Now, we all know that the second law of economics is that there is no such thing as a free lunch. So the first law of economics is supply and demand. That if someone is demanding something, then there is someone who will supply it. The second law is that there is no such thing as a free lunch. Anything that you want must be paid for somehow, some way, whether by you or by someone else directly or indirectly. Everything is paid for. Nothing is free. So today and tomorrow, we're going to make sure that you understand the true costs of all the things that you want, the stuff that you say you want, and the stuff that you may be angling to get, which means you're asking through action. Whether you're asking verbally or asking through action, you're asking for things. You should know how much they cost, so you're prepared when the bill arrives. Everybody understand it? Or when the invoice needs to be paid. Let's get into it. Point number one. Topic, once again, is the real cost of the stuff that you want. Number one, if you would like to be disciplined, I think most of the people who listen to this show, I get many people who come to me and tell me some form of this. If you want discipline, here's what you got to pay to be disciplined. You must pay with your pleasure. The cost of discipline is pleasure. In other words, if you want to be more disciplined, you must be willing to give up pleasure. You give up some pleasure, you get some discipline. If I want a slice of pizza, I got to pay $5. You want discipline, you got to pay with pleasure. You got to give it away to get that. Everybody clear on this? To be disciplined, which means following a set of standards and rules and not allowing deviation, means that you must give up the pleasures that come from doing what you feel like doing and doing things when you feel like doing them. See, that's what discipline is, the opposite of that. Discipline means doing what needs to be done, even if you don't feel like it, and doing what needs to be done at a certain time, even if it's not the time that is most convenient for you to do it. That's what discipline means. Pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, is a byproduct of following human whim. Human whim, it just means, all right, this is what I feel like doing right now. Let me go do that. That feels good. I feel like doing this. Let me do that. That feels good. I don't feel like doing these things, so I know I'm going to do nothing. See, that feels good. See, when you are following your own whims and doing whatever you feel like, usually you feel good. Usually you're not going to make yourself do something that you don't want to do. Discipline means making yourself do stuff that you don't want to do because you know it needs to be done anyway. And if you want more discipline, you must be willing to give up your pleasure. The problem with following human whim is that human beings are designed to conserve energy. This is also known as being lazy. We are designed to be lazy. We are lazy by nature. We put things off until the last possible minute, and we do things as slowly as we possibly can. Why? Because we can get away with it. The law of entropy states that we descend into chaos and disorder when we are left on our own without rules and standards. Pleasure is the amplifier of entropy. Pleasure is the amplifier of entropy. Why? Because when you are experiencing high levels of pleasure, you tend to not be holding yourself to parameters and rules and standards. Your parameters, rules, and standards get thrown away. That's the reason why it feels good. Parameters, rules, and standards means you're usually going to have to do stuff that you don't really feel like doing at times that you don't feel like doing them, that are inconvenient for you, but you have to do them anyway. That's what discipline is about. Pleasure amplifies entropy, meaning you get more chaos and more disorder the more you are chasing pleasure. When a person's chasing pleasure, usually they're doing things that show a lack of standards. Gambling addiction, smoking addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, porn addiction. These are usually chasing some pleasure, something that feels good to you, but it's not within the realm of having standards and rules and parameters. Discipline is the solution to entropy. If you want to hold off entropy, which is a natural scientific law, you need to be disciplined. So understanding how entropy works, that things are always moving into a state of disorder and chaos. If you want to keep disorder and chaos from encroaching on your life, the best way you can do that is to employ discipline. Does everybody understand that? Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the real cost of the things that you want. Number 2, exceptionalism costs isolation. If you want to be an exceptional person, you must be willing to give up isolation. Or, excuse me, let me back up. If you want to be an exceptional person, you must be willing to be isolated. I said that backwards. Exceptionalism means literally being an exception in some way, shape, or form. It means that you are doing something, representing something, living out something that is an exception from what is normally done, normally expected, or normally accepted. That's what makes you an exception. You are exceptional in some way. If you're going to be exceptional, understand that means you're probably not going to be amongst the group that much, because again, if you are amongst the group, you're going against the very definition of the word exception. Exceptions are usually doing and representing something that is different than what everybody else is doing, which means you're not going to be around the group that much because you're exceptional, because you're not going to have that much in common with them. Your actions won't be in common, your thoughts won't be in common, and your outcomes will not be in common with them. That's the very reason why you're exceptional by definition. So to be exceptional, or if you want to use the word outstanding, they're the same in this context, you must isolate yourself from everybody else in your space, and you must do so in many different ways. If you're going to be exceptional, if you're going to be outstanding, you have to stand out and be an exception from what everybody else is doing. And I made a video in maybe 2008 or 2009, and I was speaking specifically to the basketball players out there, because a lot of players were asking me what they could do to make themselves a lot better than their peers. They wanted to surpass their peers at school or the players in their neighborhood, whoever they were playing with. They wanted to be a lot better than them. And I gave them the following frame to help them understand it. And you can use this frame even to this day because it's still true. I told them that if you look around at the work that you're doing and you notice that everyone else, like those peers who you're trying to surpass, if you notice that everybody else is also doing the same work that you're doing, you're not doing anything exceptional. You're not doing anything new. You're not doing anything different. You are not separating yourself from the group. You are not doing anything outstanding. And the way you know that you're not doing anything outstanding is it's all subjective. Subjective means you can just look around and you know by just a deductive reasoning that you're not exceptional. If a bunch of other people are doing the same thing you're doing, you're not exceptional. Everybody understand this? To be exceptional, you have to be doing something that everybody else is not doing, no matter how high of a level you're doing it at. If there are 30 other people doing it, you're not exceptional. If you think you're doing something at a level 98, but there are 30 other people around doing the same thing, then the 30 of you may be exceptional as a group, but you are not exceptional from them because y'all are all doing the same thing. That's what makes it subjective. It's relative. It's all based on who's around in that space. So I should actually say relative rather than subjective. So if you look around the work that you're doing, and most of the time you see there's a bunch of other people doing the same thing that you're doing at the same time, the same way, in the same amounts, you're not exceptional. You are average. You're average. Most of the time, you should notice yourself being by yourself doing what you're doing. And there are not a bunch of other people who can say they're doing the same thing that you're doing. That's what makes you exceptional. If you're not doing that, you're being average. Simple as that. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the true cost of the things that you want. Number 3, urgency comes at the expense of comfort. If you want to be urgent in life, you can't always be comfortable. Actually, you're not going to be comfortable much. I have repeatedly told you that to get more life out of your life, you must act with urgency, you must execute with speed, you have to do things now rather than doing things later. These are not comfortable things to do. You cannot be comfortable while operating by that frame. If you want to act with urgency and you want to execute with speed and you want to do things now rather than later, it's not going to be comfortable, because there are going to be times when you don't need to do something now and you don't need to do it fast, but you are trying to be more urgent in your life. That means you have to do it now and you have to do it fast, even though there's nothing, quote unquote, forcing you to do so. And most human beings, when they use that frame, nothing's forcing me to do things fast or do it now. Usually most people end up doing nothing. And it's the opposite of urgency. Urgency is about, we need to get this done, then this done, then this done, then this done, and it's back to back to back to back, no exceptions, no gaps. That's what urgency feels like. That's what it sounds like. That's what it looks like. And to be urgent, you can't be comfortable. It's very uncomfortable to have to move yourself to action as often as an urgent person needs to move themselves to action. To get more life out of your life, this is what you got to do. Decide to get things done where there will be no obvious. Let me back up here. When you could take your time and do things later, you got to move yourself to do things now. And again, sometimes moving yourself to do something now means moving yourself to move when you don't physically feel like moving. You don't mentally or emotionally feel like moving, but you have to do it anyway. That's urgency. And that's combined, that mixes in with discipline. When you could easily take your time and do things later, which is what most humans do, and it mixes in with the second point about being exceptional. Exceptional people do things that most people don't do, and they don't do things that most people are doing. So what most people don't do is move themselves to action and do things now unless they're being forced. You being able to do that is what we call being urgent. That is what is going to make you exceptional, and it becomes a discipline. So you see how all three of these weave together, but you got to be willing to do all three. Deciding to get things done when there will be no obvious downside to putting them off and delaying action, that's urgency. There's no downside for me to get this done tomorrow, but I'm going to do it today. That's urgency. This is the reason why most people don't act with urgency, because it is very inconvenient to be urgent. Urgency is very inconvenient and it's not comfortable. You want a life of convenience and a life of comfort, that is fine. Understand that you are trading your urgency for that life. That means you're going to get less life out of your life because of the decision that you have made. If you like to live a life of urgency, or you want to live a life of urgency and get more life out of your life so you can leave a bigger and longer and more substantial legacy behind when you are gone, you must be willing to sacrifice your comfort in order to have it. That's the way that it works. That's the clear trade-off of the things that you want. Let's recap today's class, which is the real cost of the stuff that you want. Again, this is going to be a two-part series. So tomorrow I'm going to give you a few more on this subject. Number one, if you want to be disciplined, you must pay with your pleasure. It means you got to give up pleasure to be more disciplined. Discipline means following a set of standards and rules and not allowing deviation, which means it's not always going to be fun. It's not always going to be easy. And sometimes you got to make yourself do stuff that is very uncomfortable to do. And that's discipline. You want to be disciplined? I just told you what to do. Get my book, The Third Day, a free copy by going to thirddaybook.com. You'll get a free copy of that book, and I'll show you how to systematically be a more disciplined individual. Number two, exceptionalism causes isolation. If you want to be exceptional, that means you have to be willing to be isolated and not around the others, and understanding that human beings as social creatures, we like to be around other people. We are wired for socializing. So to be exceptional, you have to go against your natural human instinct of being around others and be by yourself a lot, because you're going to be doing things that are exceptional and outstanding. You stand out from the group because you are an exception from the group, which means a lot of times you're doing things that the group ain't doing. And number three, urgency calls comfort. You have to give up your comfort if you want to be urgent, because you're going to be moving yourself to do things now, doing things fast, doing things immediately when you could put them off until later, and not allowing yourself the leeway of laziness, which most human beings allow themselves all the time because it's part of our natural wiring. So you're going against the grain of your natural instinct if you're going to be an urgent individual. These are all the things you have to pay to get the things that you want. When we get into tomorrow in part 2 of the series, I'm going to give you a few more of these and explain them the exact same way. Between now and then, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, secure me as your direct coach by clicking the button right there on that page, and let's take the next step to getting your game where you want it to be, figuring out what the sacrifices are, the cost you're willing to pay, so we can get what you truly want. That's all at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all